Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Cybersecurity Fireside Chat, where we talk about all things security. My name is Steven, and joining me today is Clayton Dillard, founder and CEO of Legion Cyberworks. Welcome to today's session, Clayton.
Thanks, Stephen. Hope you're doing well.
All right, so before we begin, I want to bring your attention to the Q&A section. If you have any questions during today's session, go ahead and fill that out. Just go ahead and chat in your questions as you see fit, and we'll try to get to any questions that come in before we wrap up today's session. Now, a little bit about Clayton, right? So he began his career in IT in 1996, which goes way back. I remember those days. I was there, and during which time he held various roles. Desktop support technician. That's probably, I guess, the entry level that you kind of
Yeah.
went into the IT world. Sysadmin, pen tester, consultant, director of technology and security. And over the past 28 years, I mean, you've worked with some great companies like Eaton, PowerWave, Rex Hospital, ABB, Opsware, and Mediant. And then during his journey, you developed a passion for technology and cybersecurity passion, which led you to create your own company, Legion Cyberworks, in 2016. And today, Legion has clients spanning the energy sector, healthcare, food, hospitality, higher education, and it sounds like the level of success has been pretty outstanding, Clayton.
Yeah, it's been really a good ride so far. Doing what I love to do, accomplishing our mission, which is, all about protecting our customers' business from cyber attacks has been, very fulfilling.
Yeah. So, this is always interesting to me, right? Can you tell us a little more about why you started Legion, right? So, I mean, you're, working for some really large companies, you got director of technology and services, you're pretty high up there in the echelon. And it sounds like just all in one day, or maybe you decided at some certain time, I'm just going to go start my own gig. So
Yeah.
why was that? What was the
Yeah.
motivating factor there?
It's a good question, Stephen. So, early in my career, well, I should say maybe the midpoint of my career, I really had a laser focus on cybersecurity. And, I was working for this big company and we were, doing a lot of pen testing and all that sort of stuff and really trying to, it was kind of at the very kind of forefront of cyber, what do you call it, cybersecurity back then? It's called InfoSec.
Yeah, I
But
remember those days.
yeah, so I mean, I kind of fell in love with information security at that point, and kind of as I went on through my career, in the back of my mind, no matter what role I was working in the back of my mind and in the way that I did things, it was always to sort of merge that cybersecurity infosec mindset and the approach with technology and whatever it was that we were trying to accomplish. And I kind of I guess in 2014, 2015, about a year or so before I started the company, I was working for a really great company, Media Communications. And fantastic team, had a great team of folks working for me, and it's a wonderful company. And I really began to feel this urge, to like get out, do my own thing, kind of roll my own type of solution where I'm blending tech and cyber, and really just kind of followed my passion, Stephen. So it's not very complicated. That's kind of what happened.
Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
an interesting story. I always love to hear about people's past and I mean there's always been a tremendous need, right? And so I'm guessing you saw some gaps, you saw some deficiencies out there and said, I think I could do a better job. And I think I could build a team to probably do a better job than some of these or to at least help some of these organizations, get to where you think they needed to be.
Mhm.
So what are some of the key developments in your managed services and particularly, autonomous pen testing?
Yeah, so we as a company, we really focus on three pillars. That's prevention, detection, and response. And so as we started kind of growing and doing more contracts, a lot of what we were doing was consulting to start off with,
Yeah.
helping customers with things like risk assessments. We began to do penetration testing, and as we were carrying those things out, it became pretty clear to us that a lot of our clients needed that ongoing security management. And so, we started forming some relationships with some really excellent partners. Horizon 3, obviously becoming one of those. And I got introduced to Horizon 3 a few years ago by a colleague, and he just raving about you guys, and so I had to take a look, and I ended up, thankfully meeting Tony and kind of understanding and learning about your platform, and it became obvious to me that Node Zero really fits into the entire premise and mission that we're here to carry out, that prevention, detection, and response. We're big believers on offense informing defense, and truly believe, and we've experienced that pen testing is a form of prevention, especially when you do the remediation part of it. So you guys are a really natural fit for us, and our customers have had some fantastic success working with us and you guys. It's just been a great partnership.
So it sounds like you folks started out in like consulting, right? At first,
Right.
right? So it was really along the lines of consulting.
Yeah.
And then now you're offering like managed SIM and penetration to, managed threat response. Tell us a little bit more about all of this stuff that you guys have been doing.
Yeah. So, this sort of the impetus of this was a data breach that we ended up leading the incident response efforts on back in 2018 in North Carolina. So, what that ended up kind of resulting in was it was the largest healthcare data breach in the US that year, I believe. And so that particular customer, we sort of jumped in and started doing the incident response process. And as we sort of got to the tail end of that, we implemented SIM, EDR, and several other controls to help them level up their cybersecurity and obtain, have those prevention, detection, and response capabilities. And it's just carried on, right? So after that, we've just brought on more and more customers. And they trust us to do that for them every day. And as you know, I mean, there's always something going on. There's always a spear phishing attack, some credentials getting compromised, externally facing web servers or web app stack or whatever happens to be getting attacked. So, we're delivering that on a consistent basis, all of these services that you're kind of displaying here. So it's
Right, right.
very
And so then you kind of shifted. So was it a natural shift into the sort of the penetration and sort of this advanced red teaming? What was the driver to get into this part of the business?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess there was two things really, Stephen. I mean, for one, our customers started asking for it. We started getting into more customer engagements where SOC 2 or HIPAA or PCI was an element of it. And so they're asking us, hey, do you guys do pen testing? So it's partly a customer, request type thing. The other part of it was, again, understanding the value that pen testing brings. Being able to, like, turn that map around, look at yourself like an adversary looks at yourself,
Mhm.
and being able to deliver that type of service to our customers in the prevention side of things was huge for us. We want our customers to be the ones, or we be the ones that identify those weaknesses and get those remediated. We don't want the bad guys discovering those. So it's a
Right.
natural kind of fit with what we do as a company.
So it's kind of a sort of a natural evolution
Mhm.
to stumble across Node Zero. I'm curious, how in the world did you find Node Zero? Or did you hear
Yeah,
about Node Zero the first time? You
yeah,
mentioned Tony, but I don't know if you know Tony personally or
I do.
what's the story
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know Tony before I met you guys, but so a colleague of mine, who is a CISO at a major fintech company, introduced you guys to me.
All right.
This was probably 3 years ago, and he connected me with their manager of infosec, and so we started talking. He was telling me about the platform and how they're using it, and I was like, all right, I got to learn more about this. So he connected me with one of your account managers and took a look at the platform. I was like, this is pretty cool. Ended up meeting Tony. And then kind of things just developed, right? I mean, it was pretty clear relatively quickly that Node Zero was a phenomenal tool, very capable in terms of what it allows us to do within a customer's network. And then also even things just like the fantastic reporting, the proof, all that sort of stuff was right in there. And this is all stuff, Stephen, that we spend hours doing. So when we
Right.
go out and we do a pen test, a good chunk of time is spent on that very first several days, right? We're doing enumeration, discovery, and all the other things kind of go into it. And then on the back end, it's writing these reports. So,
Right.
and then there's the middle part. But Tony and I met, hit it off, ended up doing an event here at one of the state's electrical grid operators, and I mean it's just been a barnstormer ever since. It's been really good for us and really good for our customers.
So what's kind of the importance of blending Node Zero's capabilities with your own expertise? I mean, how did that, how did you blend that too, right? Because you think in a tool where
Yeah.
you guys have got all this expertise and years of experience and understanding, like I said, enumerating and the whole network and then doing your testing and then writing your reports. How did that all blend together?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, I think it really boils down to two main areas. One is speed and the other is effectiveness. So, the first time that we did a pen test engagement with your tool being a primary part of what we were delivering, it was about 5,000 some odd hosts on a large network in Florida. And I think we did the first part of the pen test in about a day and a half using Node Zero. So you effectively took what would have taken us several days and trimmed that down to about a day and a half, maybe 2 days. So there's the speed element of it, right? And then the effectiveness element of it is, okay, so our engineer doesn't have to spend his time doing a lot of those enumeration discovery and all the other sort of intro parts of a pen test. He can get the results out of Node Zero, take a look at what's being presented to him, looking at the evidence, looking at ports and services and all the other aspects of the data that we have access to in Node Zero, and then go out and start doing additional work within the customer's environment,
Right.
which basically acts like, I mean, it's almost like your tool is kind of like a force multiplier for us. So we send, a guy in, we've got, Node Zero with him, and, it's a major efficiency boost and makes us more effective for our clients.
Yeah, that's something Snail uses all the time, the force multiplier. And again,
Yeah.
when we're talking about Tony, Tony's the co-founder with
Right.
Snail and Tony Piliteri, and Snail
Yep.
and Tony started this thing in 2019. And like I said, I came across this company through a recruiter. And once I looked at the technology and I met Snehal and Tony, I'm like, yeah, this is something I've never seen before, and what they've actually created. And I've got 30 years of experience in IT and security and, just decades of time spent, with all kinds of different technologies. And, one of the things I also think is kind of interesting, and you may have, some experience or some thoughts around this as well, is, earlier this year, certainly we had the internal pen testing capabilities, we had the external pen testing capabilities. But this year, in 2024, has been a whirlwind of
Yeah.
new capabilities
Yeah.
that's been added to this product. I mean, it started off with early in the year with our phishing impact testing.
Yeah.
So have you guys ever used any of that yet, or actually helped implement that phishing impact test in an environment as of yet?
Yeah, we're beginning to do that. We've got a customer right now who is open to doing that. So it's funny you mentioned that because we were just kind of working on this, kind of getting the planning and the prep stuff going with them. I think it's huge. I mean, everybody wants to know what's the impact if a set of credentials gets compromised. So
Mhm.
we already had the ability to sort of inject credentials right into a pen test using Node Zero, but the ability to be able to use the KnowBe4 platform to phish somebody, grab their creds, stick it into inject it into the pen test, and then you get to understand, and so do the stakeholders, right? The decision makers in your company really get a better perspective of what is the risk of a set of compromised credentials if the person's a member of this group, or maybe they're an engineer.
Exactly.
So it's super powerful. We're just getting started with that. It's very exciting. And you're right, it's been a really banger year for you guys. I mean, Tripwires, another amazing thing that you guys, are just knocking it out of the park with. And that's on the detection and response side. So,
Right.
that's one of the things that I'm glad you mentioned, Stephen, because what we're ending up with is a platform that allows us to do the offensive security. It allows us to set those tripwires out now, right? Do credential phishing and injection, all the other capabilities, and basically kind of complete that circle, the prevention, detection, and response circle. Because part of this is also testing your response. Either we're testing our own SIM SOC MDR response, or some of our customers don't use us for that. And we're testing whoever their MDR provider is or their SOC provider is. So it's just extremely powerful, very beneficial, and we're just thrilled with it.
Yeah, so the phishing impact test for the audience that may not know is it allows you to integrate Node Zero with the phishing simulator tools like KnowBe4, a couple other ones out there. And then when you're phishing your employees or you're doing these tests with your employees and somebody enters their credentials, those credentials get all sent over to Node Zero, and Node Zero begins to use those credentials. So it can kind of measure that blast radius, right? What is the damage that can be done if I get a person's credentials? And sometimes, I mean, this could be an intern's credentials, somebody that's just there temporary, a low-level employee that doesn't have lots of access to lots of different things. And Node Zero will use those credentials. And then next thing you know, many times you'll see it actually obtain like domain admin, some of or domain admin, some other things like that. So another thing too, we added this year was the cloud pen testing, right? And so
Mhm.
one of the first solutions I've ever seen where you can actually deploy this tool, Node Zero, into your cloud environments. So any experience or any interest in utilizing this capability for some of your clients?
Yeah, there's definitely interest, and we've got a telehealth company that we've been delivering managed services to, and they're going to be doing the cloud pen testing as of 2025. So that'll be our first foray into doing that, and I think that as we get some time behind the stick on that, we'll be pushing that out to additional customers to get that value in there.
Right, exactly. So organizations, that have these hybrid environments where obviously they got a lot of on-prem, they got some
Right.
cloud, there's some interconnectivity in between the two. And I'm just amazed with Node Zero's ability to either start on-prem and make it to the
Yeah.
cloud or start in the cloud and make it back to on-prem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's some of the things that we're seeing, and it's really also really testing and verifying your identity access management policies and controls up in your cloud environment, because we know that's sort of like the backbone of the cloud security is how well I'm managing, authorization and identity.
Yep. Exactly.
And then any comments around like the rapid response thing that we did also? That was a new service. So any thoughts or ideas around that?
Yeah, I mean, we take advantage of that fairly regularly. I mean, the fact that, we can look at things like, just for example, ones that we've seen. So there was an issue or a vulnerability in Laravel that came out I don't know, a couple of months ago. So we've got customers who use Laravel in their app stack, and it's all obviously internet exposed. Things like Kemp load balancers, SolarWinds, I believe those are just among some of those rapid response specific pen tests that we can run, off the cuff to verify a customer's exposure to something like a, remote code execution on Laravel. So that's huge for us because we have several customers with pretty significant internet facing infrastructure.
Right, right. And so, just for the listening audience, I just pulled up Node Zero here real quick and just thought I'd just kind of give you some context of what this rapid response thing's all about. And so this was a service that we'd kind of been delivering quietly for years. And then we kind of like, gave it a name and actually, are building this out. But these are really just like specific tests that you can run against an environment. And if you notice here, there's quite a few of these tests, and a lot of these are really kind of tracking the vulnerability that suddenly makes it to the sysakev, right? And once it makes it to the sysakev, an organization can go out, launch a specific test, or your team can go out and launch a specific test to quickly determine, is this vulnerability exploitable in this environment? The way it's deployed, what security appliances are around it, what ports and protocols it has open, and things like that. And it's quite interesting. As a matter of fact, this was one that just made it to the sysakev yesterday, in fact. And this was discovered by our research team, and it was found amongst some of our clients. It did make it to the sysakev. And the beauty is that organizations have been able to actually test and determine whether they were exploitable in an environment what, months, 2 months before it made it to the CISA which is
Mhm.
huge, right? And so just an example of what this rapid response thing was all about. I'm just
Yeah.
totally impressed with our research team taking the research and rolling it into protections for our clients
Yeah.
so that they can quickly say, yeah, I'm exploitable. I got to update this thing like now.
Yeah.
Or, hey, we can't exploit it. We know we're vulnerable. The software is vulnerable. We know we need to patch. We got a little bit of time. We don't think it's exploitable where it's deployed. And so
Mhm.
that's sort of the value. Now, you also mentioned tripwires. I want to circle back to this because this was a new thing that we just released. And
Yeah.
this was sort of well, actually, some of it was, the thought process of our CEO, Snail and Tani. And he said, look, if we're out doing this pen test and we're finding these exploitable attack paths, what else can we do? Well, what we're doing is we're dropping these decoys along those exploitable attack paths, be fake credentials, fake files, etc. And then when attacker comes along and maybe trips one of those tripwires,
Mhm.
the SOC would be alerted, your team would be alerted.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts around that whole tripwire thing?
I think it's just, I think it's an essential capability. So having the having the option of dropping these tripwires throughout your environment and getting that early warning is absolutely essential. If you take, cases like ransomware and insider threats are just a couple of examples. The sooner you can find out that there's an adversary in your network who's probing around on exposed file shares, for example, the sooner you can take mitigating actions and control and limit that, blast radius, the impact and the scope of what's going on in your network. This is fundamental. This is a fundamental cybersecurity control that every organization needs to have.
Well, the other thing too is you're not just blindly dropping these tripwires randomly around your network. It's strategically dropping them in the right places where you are at risk,
Mhm.
or this is a critical asset, critical data stores. The attackers are going to go for this first, and having that detection, that deception and detection technology, and then the integration that we've got beyond the back end,
Right.
webhooks integration to your ticketing systems or your SIM, et cetera, and really focusing your team and saying, look, somebody is trying to get in, right? The other thing that I like about tripwires too, and just sharing this with the audience is that, for instance, right, there's a vulnerable system out there, and you got to wait until there's like a maintenance window, right? You can't immediately patch that system. Well, you can put tripwires around that system and help protect it, or at least alert you that somebody is encroaching on that system while you're waiting for your next maintenance window or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I know we're just yeah, we're about 4 minutes out, I think, from no, we got about 5 minutes left. So um let me ask you this. I always love to hear this from people that have been in the industry for so long, and not speaking in terms of the coming election, but in 2025. What's your prediction? What do you think is going to be the number one attack or methodology or outcome? Or I do a lot of predictions pieces, and I always like to hear from the people that are probably even closer to the to the events than I am. So
Yeah, that's a good question, Stephen. I think we're going to see more attacks that are leveraging credentials. That's been that has been a theme, and I think it's going to be a consistent theme. I'm reading more and more about adversarial usage of large language model AI
mhm.
platforms to either assist in their planning and preparation or the deployment of offensive technologies. I think we're going to see more AI based attacks. Um, I think those are some of the things that we need to be watching out for, and as we kind of get into 2025, having a tool like Horizon 3, Node Zero, that's giving us the ability to do these rapid cadence assessments, these pen tests to find those weaknesses and fix them hopefully before the bad guys find them is going to be even more essential.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the ransomware theme obviously is huge, right? And organizations and today, a lot of people unfortunately don't necessarily think that, okay, this ransom attack is being human led, human operated, right? So somebody's probably already in your network. Somebody's probably already discovered where your critical systems are. Somebody's
Mhm.
already discovered where that data is. They may have already extracted, exfiltrated that data. And then all of a sudden you get that ransom notification and saying, here's a sample of the data that we've stolen and pay up, or you know what's going to happen next, right? And the history of that is just, and the number of incidents is just astronomical, right?
Yeah,
This whole, and really, I think what the attackers done is they just figured out how to monetize it, right? To saying, hey, not only can we encrypt all your data, we figured out a way to actually monetize it and make it very, very lucrative.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
we got a question that came in real fast, and I think we got about 4 minutes left. And there's a question from Calvin, and he asks about, is there any integration capability with Nessus? And so if you don't want to, I can take that question or you can take it, Clayton.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I'll let you answer
Well, I
specifically.
mean, not really necessarily integration, right? So I'm thinking they're talking about Nessus vulnerability scanning. I'm guessing that's
Mhm.
what that question is, right? The vulnerability scanning capabilities that are inherent to a Nessus product. And so our position is this, is that Node Zero is not really designed, or not, its intention is not to replace vulnerability scanning. Vulnerability scanning is still very, very important, right? To find all the various vulnerabilities across your assets, whether it's software vulnerabilities and others and other vulnerabilities. But our position on it is that it complements it. The vulnerability scanning is fantastic, but the challenge that I constantly hear from organizations about vulnerability scanning is that it doesn't necessarily prioritize what's
Yeah,
the highest risk,
yeah,
right? And that's kind of like where Node Zero comes in and says, not only are you vulnerable, it's completely exploitable as well.
yeah. I couldn't
Th-
agree more.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is the thing that's obviously high on the food chain. And this is the thing that you need to focus your remediation efforts on first. And so
yeah,
it's a complement. It's not a replacement. It's actually, I believe it's a complement. And also Node Zero fits very well into the CTEM ASM strategies and initiatives that organizations are doing, because it's really about, again, back to the term exploitability.
Mhm.
There's another question that came in around Nathan. And Nathan, I don't know the answer to this question, but I can certainly follow up with you and get an answer to it. But it's, are you going to allow, Al, you already took that question down from me. So we got Al running the operation behind the scenes here. But it was a question around tripwires and being able to create your own tripwires. And I'll get you an answer to that question. Um, so we're about 2 minutes out, and I think we're close to calling this a wrap. Any last comments, Clayton? Anything that you would want to, any calls to action, anything that you would want to leave behind with the listeners here today?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we always advise our customers to be proactive with their cybersecurity program. One way to do that is by pen testing. It's not feasible for most organizations to bring a firm in like us to do, a manual pen test more than once a year. So what's the answer to that solution? And Node Zero for us and our customers is the answer to that solution.
Mhm.
Being able to run a pen test every month, every week, like you were talking about earlier, Steve, with the on-demand pen test to look for a specific exploitable vulnerability. This is key to prevention. And I'd encourage you to get in touch with us or get in touch with Steven and the team over at Horizon 3. We'd love to give you a demo. I'm very confident you're going to like what you see, and the results will be absolutely fantastic. So that's kind of what I'd leave you with.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just the way that things have changed, right? People have done this sort of the annual penetration test 3 years. And as we can see, there's lots of momentum, especially in the legislative, organizations around the world, saying, look, we've got to do a lot better job of assessing our risk. And a great way to do that at risk assessment is through adversarial like exercises using, red team tools and, consulting pen testers and Node Zero, et cetera. All right. So we're at the bottom or the top of the hour, and I just want to thank everyone for joining today and have a great rest of your day.